Okay, we're continuing with the book here, Prevent and Reverse Kidney Disease by me, Pete Rogers. If you're following along in the book, we're on page 97. Okay, we're starting here with a quote from Richard Moore. He's a MD, PhD. He said, hypertension is just a symptom of eating a low K-factor diet. So K-factor is the ratio of potassium to sodium. Our ancestors ate about 10 to 20 times more potassium than sodium, whereas modern populations in the West typically eat about 10 times as much sodium as potassium. And that messes up their plasma membrane, sodium-potassium ATP pumps, and their electrochemical gradients of their plasma membrane. So what that means is you need to have a high electrochemical gradient for sodium, because that's coupled to pumping calcium out of the cytoplasm of a cell. And if you can't pump calcium out of the cytoplasm of a cell, the cell stays activated, in particular your vascular smooth muscle. So a person who eats these modern processed food diets, their vascular smooth muscle is clamped down, which narrows the arteries. Vascular smooth muscle wraps around the outside of an artery and it makes it narrow. So that's what causes hypertension. You know, two major things that cause hypertension are the high-fat diets, because it sticks the red blood cells together, makes the blood thick, and then the high-sodium, low-potassium diets, low magnesium as well, because they constrict things down. And the reason they're like that, processed food, is in a normal cell, there's high potassium and magnesium in the center. But when you process the food, you grind it up, and then you rinse it with water and solvents that rinse away the potassium and the magnesium, and then you add salt back to make it taste good and as a preservative. So processed food pretty much almost always is high in sodium, low in potassium and magnesium. And natural occurring food is the opposite. And most people nowadays are eating a lot of processed food, not much natural whole plant food, so they become hypertensive. Okay, you almost never see it in vegetarians. And these are actually some quotes. This is quotes by Richard Moore. I want you to know this. He spent 50 years of his life. He's a brilliant guy researching hypertension and plasma membrane ion pumps. He says, nature gives us no choice. You have no choice. There is no medical, surgical bullshitology that can fix this. Either you eat the right food or you're screwed, okay? We must have enough potassium and magnesium for our cells to work properly. By the way, magnesium is right in the center of chlorophyll, okay? That's why it's high in plants. Anthropologists who study different cultures are unanimous that hypertension is due to diet and lifestyle, because populations eating their ancestral diets almost have zero hypertension. Vegetarians with a high K factor almost never get hypertension. There's really rare things like pheochromocytoma or that, but like I'll see one of those once every 20 years. Okay. Animal studies show that increasing K factor means eating more plant foods will lower your blood pressure and help prevent strokes. Research on humans shows that increasing K factor prevents hypertension and strokes. And here's a big statement. Clinical research on hypertension treatment with drugs does not prevent most heart attacks and strokes. Yeah, the benefit you get from controlling things with drugs is very weak compared to the benefit you get with food. Biophysical research shows that every cell has an electrical system with potassium, sodium, ATP pumps that are used for normal homeostasis. And if the sodium concentration inside a cell is persistently elevated from a low K-factor diet, then a whole group of predictable abnormalities occurs. The person will be hypertensive, they'll have increased insulin resistance, increased likelihood of being diabetic, and they will have increased strokes and heart attacks and atherosclerosis. Okay, examples of population that were healthy with low-fat plant-based diets includes the Okinawans in Japan, the Yanomano in South America, the Kenyans in Africa, the Tarahumara in Mexico, the Papua New Guinea population in Papua New Guinea, Finland after Pekka Puska made his improvements, and etc. It's always the same. Wherever they eat more plant foods, natural occurring plant whole foods, they're healthier, skinnier, with less hypertension and diabetes. I'm not aware of any exceptions to that. Okay, when you start eating fried foods and high-fat foods, that's a different ball of wax. That's usually unnatural stuff processed in its own way. So a quick little discussion of the Pima and the Tarahumara. So the Tarahumara live in northern Mexico in the Sierra Madre Mountains. Sierra means like a saw, so the up and down jigsaw tooth pattern of the mountains. It's also called Copper Canyon area. They don't have cars. They run around all the time. And they were combined previously with the Pima population, but after the Mexican-American War in 1848, the Pima were pulled into what is now Arizona. And in the last, 50, 70 years, they've been eating the standard American diet, very high in fat, high in sodium, and they've all, they have tremendously high rates of obesity, diabetes, gallbladder disease, gallstones. So they end up fat and sick. Just type into your browser Pima obesity, and you'll see all these fat people pop up. And you look at the old Pima, you'll see them; they're all fit, look like a college wrestling team. The Tarahumara, just type into your browser Tarahumara runners or ultra marathon runners, and you'll see all these skinny guys running all over the place. They have a holiday every year where they run like about 100 miles in 2 days, and like every guy in town can do it, not just the fast guy. Okay, yeah, so here, as I say, is typical Pima, all sad because they're fat and sick. And when people are fat and sick, they also become stupid. They become cognitively impaired, demented at a young age. Okay, Tarahumara. Run, run, run. Let's see. The Tarahumara, when they were studied closely, a guy named Connor, I think Bill Connor, he was a friend. Actually, I think Dr. T. Colin Campbell knows him. And I think, I know certainly that Esselstyn knows of him. I hear them talking about him, and I've seen his papers. The Tarahumara had no obesity, not a single guy was fat, no coronary artery disease, average total cholesterol was 136, average triglycerides were 115. Their diet was about 75% carbohydrate, 13% protein, fat 12%, and they ran a lot. Famous American triathletes like the great Ruth Heidrich, PhD, vegan, has survived. She's still alive. She's like 91 years old. She survived breast cancer for over 40 years. She went and visited them, confirmed they were for real, as did these other ultra-marathon runner guys. And a guy by the name of Christopher McDougall wrote a book about him. He's not related to John McDougall, but still it was a pretty good book. I think it was called Born to Run. Here's a paper about them. Yeah, and this one is written by R.W. Connor. Okay, 523 healthy Tarahumara people. Mean cholesterol in this study was an average of 125. Let's see here. Average triglycerides were 115 in this study. The diet of the Tarahumara was very low in cholesterol, very low in fat, 12% of calories. Protein was 13% of calories. Carbohydrate, 75%. Fiber, that's kind of low. I don't believe that fiber. That sounds incorrect. If they ate a lot of beans, I don't think their fiber could be only 19. Corns and beans were the chief caloric source. Your fiber is going to be higher than 19 milligrams a day. Okay, if you're running a lot and you're eating beans, excuse me, that's not correct. Virtual absence of hypertension, obesity, and the usual age-related rise in serum cholesterol seen in adults. Okay, thus the customary diet of the Tarahumara is adequate in all nutrients, is hypolipidemic, and is presumably anti-atherogenic. Okay. All right, now here is a picture of a Yanomamo guy. You can just type Yanomamo, or sometimes you put an I there, Yanomami, a South American Amazon jungle, like on the border of Brazil and Venezuela. And these guys, they're kind of wild and crazy. They're always running around fighting, raiding the other tribes, stealing their women. Okay, and by the way, that's another good thing. Spare me with the multicultural BS. All cultures are not equal. With these guys, you grow up to be a member of the gang, and then you go raid the local tribe, and you steal their women, and you RAPE them, okay? So I don't admire their social habits, but I do admire their health. They eat a plant-based diet, no salt added. They only eat about 200 milligrams of sodium per day. And they got the same blood pressure in their teen years as in their 60s. They have a reputation for being violent maniacs. And despite all the stress of that being your extracurricular activity, to raid local tribes, kidnap women, to RAPE them, despite all the stress involved in that type of lifestyle, they have incredibly normal blood pressures, which just goes to show you that diet's more important than stress for controlling blood pressure. And like I said, it's always like this. Low-fat plant-eating populations, they're not hypertensive. They don't have any of these problems. Okay, so normal blood pressure, let's say it's something like 110/70. Of course, depends on the individual. As long as you feel good, it's good to have a lower pressure. Here's a hypertensive person, 200/100. And the pulse pressure is the difference between the top number and the bottom number. Okay, so the pulse pressure here, 110/70, would be 40. Pulse pressure here would be 100. Okay. All right, I think we're going to stop right here, and then next time we'll go through some more of this, the nuance of hypertension and why it's so atherogenic, why does it cause brain damage and heart damage, coronary artery disease, and lead to other problems like congestive heart failure, atrial fibrillation. So anyways, I hope you found that helpful.